In this class, we are going to learn how to interpret and solve questions on word problem leading to quadratic equation. Okay, let's start with the first question. If 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number, the result is 5. What are the possible values of the number? Okay, now please, I want you to pay attention. Word problem. Okay, word problem, that is ROB. Okay, word problem. Now, see, we are told that 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number. The first step is that let the number be a letter. You understand? Represent the number by a letter. In this case, I'm going to choose X. Okay, let the number be X. Solution. Let the number be X. Okay, now I'm interpreting the question now. Okay, you know that we are given the question in word problem. The first step in solving that question is that we have to make an equation out of the problem, out of the word problem that we are given. You understand? So that's what I'm trying to do now. Now go back to the question. The first statement said that if 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number. Now if I say that, listen, if I ask you to subtract 3 from 2, hello? If I ask you to subtract 3 from 2, what will be the expression of that statement? Subtract 3 from 2. That means that I'm going to have 2 minus 3. Is that not it? Now, if I ask you to subtract 4 from 5, that means that I'm going to have 5 minus 4. You understand? That is subtract 4 from 5. That means I'm going to have 5 minus 4. Now, go back to the question now. We are given that 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number. Now, that means that twice the square of the number simply means that if the number is x, the square of the number is what? X squared. Hello? Listen very carefully and don't be confused, okay? Listen, it's simple. All you have to do is that you just have to understand the question, okay? And then interpret it. See, 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number. The square, let the number be x. The square of the number is what? X squared. That is, I'm going to square x squared. I'm going to square x because I've said let the number be x. So the square of x is what? X squared. You understand? So if you look at the last if you look at that statement, from twice the square of the number. Twice means the number is twice. That means I'm going to have 2 multiplied by x. That is what? 2x squared. Hello? So here I'm going to have 2x squared. If 3 times a certain number, so 3 times a certain number means 3 times x, because I've said let the number be x. Let that certain number be x. You understand? Let that certain number be x. 3 times a certain number is subtracted from the square of the from twice the square of the number. Twice the square of the number is what? 2x squared. You understand? Okay? Now, we are told that 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number. That means I'm going to have 2x squared minus 3x. Please, I hope you get what I'm doing. I'm just trying to make sure that you understand, because if you didn't understand how to interpret this, then even though you know how to solve quadratic equation, if you didn't learn how to interpret the question, if you didn't learn how to interpret the question, you might have problem. You understand? You might have some, you might make some mistake. Okay, and that's why I take time. It's not that we have not done. I'm very sure we've learned how to solve quadratic equation in our previous class, but here we have word problem where you are required to make your equation out of it. You understand? So I want you to pay attention, okay? So here I've already interpreted that statement. 3 times a certain number is subtracted from twice the square of the number. That is, twice the square of the number is what? 2x squared minus 3 times a certain number. Since I've already said that let the number be x, okay? So now let's proceed. The result is 5. So that means 2x squared minus 3x equals to 5. That is, when I subtract 3 times a certain number from the square or from the twice of the square of that number, I got 5. You understand? So this is the interpretation. Now we are asked to find the number. Hello? We are asked to find the number. Now see, I'm very sure you'll be able to solve this. But what they want to test is that, are you able to interpret the question? Because they know, the examiner knows that if you are unable to get the right interpretation, even if you solve the question, you won't get the right answer. Okay? The examiner knows that your ability to interpret the question and get the answer right is very important. So they gave it a word problem. Even though you can solve this question, if you are unable to interpret the question rightly, you won't be able to get the right answer. Okay? So it is very important that you pay attention. Now we have come here. We are asked to determine the value of x. To solve this quadratic equation, we can make use of either factorization method, we can make use of the completing the square method, and we can make use of the quadratic formula as we've learned in our previous class. You can use any of this method. But here, I'm going to be using factorization method. Okay? Now, let's proceed. To solve this using the factorization method, I'm going to have first bring the constant term to the left hand side of the equation. Okay? I want this quadratic equation to be like this: ax squared plus bx plus c. I want it to look like this. You understand? So what I'm going to have at the right hand side of the equation should be 0. Okay? So I'm going to move this constant term to the other side of the equation. So here the quadratic equation becomes 2x squared minus 3x minus 5 equals to 0. Do you understand? Okay? Now from this point, if you want to solve this quadratic equation using the factorization method, the first step is that we've done this in our previous class, so I'm going to skip many of the steps. You see, just take the product of the first term and the second term. Okay? First term is 2, second term is what? Negative 5. Because this quadratic equation, the value of a is not unity. A is the coefficient of the highest power of the unknown. You understand? The coefficient of the highest power of the unknown is what? 2. So a is not unity. B is what? Negative 3. And c is what? C is negative 5. So you can see that in this quadratic equation, the coefficient of x squared is not unity. So because the coefficient of x squared is not unity, I'm going to take the product of the coefficient of x squared, which is a, and negative 5, which is c. So a multiplied by c is equals to 2 multiplied by negative 5, which is equals to what? Negative 10. Do you understand? Now, having taken the product of a and c, hello, please pay attention, okay? I'm just trying to refresh what we've learned in our previous class, okay? Now, I want to solve this quadratic equation using the factorization method, okay? But if you look at this quadratic equation, a is not unity. If a is unity, that means that a will be 1. But in this quadratic equation, a is what? 3. A is 2, sorry. A is 2. That means that a is not unity. Are you paying attention? Now, because a is not unity, I'm going to take some step, and that is what I'm doing. To solve this using the factorization method, first take the product of a, which is 2, and the constant term, which is negative 5. So I have negative 10. Okay? Now, the second step is that you have to bring out the second term. The second term in this quadratic equation is what? B. You understand? So the product of a and c is what? The product of a and c is 10, and the second term, which is b, is what? B is negative 3. Okay, the product of a and c is what? Negative 10, and the second term is what? Negative 3. Now, listen. Having gotten to this point, the next step is that you have to think of two numbers such that when you take the product of these two numbers, you are going to have negative 10. And if you add these two numbers together, you are going to have negative 3. Listen. Think of two numbers. such that their product will be equals to negative 10 and their sum will be equals to negative 3. What are those two numbers? Should we use negative 5 and negative 2? Let's check. Negative 5 and negative 2. Negative 5 times negative 2, that will give us what? Negative 10. Negative 5 plus negative 2, that will give us negative 7. So we cannot use this. This is not correct. Think of another two number. Let us use negative 5 and positive 2. Negative 5 and positive 2. Negative 5 times positive 2, that is negative 10. So I'm going to have negative 10. Negative 5 plus 2. Let me just do like that. Negative 5 plus 2, that will be negative 3. You can see that this gives us what we are looking for. So we are going to make use of negative 5 plus 2. Hello? We are going to make use of negative 5 plus 2. Now, since you have already gotten those two numbers, the next step is that you are going to replace those two numbers by, you are going to replace B. Please listen. You are going to replace B by those two numbers. Are you paying attention? So what I need here is negative 5 plus 2. Okay? Now, I'm going to replace B by these two numbers. Okay? So here I'm going to have 2x squared minus 3. Okay, now I'm not going to write minus 3. I'm going to replace minus 3, which is B, by minus 5 plus 2. Hello, listen, this is simple, okay? All you have to do is just to pay attention. I'm trying to solve this using the factorization method. And if you miss our first class, if you miss the previous class, you can revert back to the video on the channel and watch those classes, okay? That will give you more understanding, okay? I take time to explain what I'm explaining right now, okay? See, I'm going to replace this B by this negative 5 and 2, okay? So, instead of negative 3, I'm going to have, hello, listen, I'm going to have negative 5 plus 2 x minus 5 equals to 0. You understand? Okay? Negative 5 plus 2, that will give me what? Negative 3. So, if I solve what is in if I solve this bracket, I'm still going to have negative 3. You understand? Okay? So, here, let's proceed. Just open the bracket with x. 2x squared minus 5x plus 2x minus 5 equals to 0. So, having gotten to this point, I'm going to rearrange this equation, okay, so as to make the solving simple, okay. So, I'm going to have 2x squared plus 2x minus 5x minus 5 equals to 0, okay. Now, we can factorize. Okay. Here, I'm going to have 2x into bracket x plus 2. Because what is common to this side, okay, let me divide it into 2. I divide, hello, please listen, hello, just pay attention, okay, you are going to understand. I divide this equation into 2. This is the first part and this is the second part, okay. Now, when I got here, I factorized. What is common to 2x squared and 2x? What is common is 2x, you understand? Even it's not plus 2, it is plus 1. What is common to 2x squared and 2x is what? What is common to 2x squared and 2x is what? 2x. So I factorize 2x. Then I have x plus 1, okay? Listen, if you take the product of 2x and x, you are going to have what? 2x squared. If you take the product of 2x and 1, you are going to have what? 2x. You understand? So when I got to this point, I divide this equation into 2. The first part being here and the second part being here. Then I first factorize the first part. That is why we call this method factorization method, okay? So I call this part the first part. Then let's proceed to the second part. Let us factorize the second part. Here I'm going to have what is common to negative 5x and negative 5. What is common is negative 5. You understand? So I'm going to have negative 5 into bracket x plus 1. Hello? If you didn't understand how to solve quadratic equation using the factorization method, I have done many examples and questions on it. Just check the description of this video or you should go back to the channel, check the playlist quadratic equation. You are going to see various questions I've already solved on factorization method. Okay, it's very important that you know how to solve it is very important that you know how to solve quadratic equation using all the three methods. You understand? Because you might come across questions that will specify that you should solve this equation using the factorization method. How do you want to go about it? Okay, so please, it is very important that you note that. So this is equals to 0. Now, let me give you an hint. Anytime you factorize a quadratic equation, what is in this first bracket must be equal to what is in this second bracket. So if you factorize your own and you realize that what is here is not the same thing as what is there, that means that something is wrong. Okay, now here I'm going to, what is outside this bracket is 2x. Here I have minus 5, so I'm going to connect this and this together. So here I'm going to have 2x minus 5 equals to 0. Now you can see that we have the same content inside the first and the second bracket. So I'm going to choose one. X plus 1 equals to 0. Okay, do you understand? Now, having gotten to this point, you can get the value of x by just simplifying connecting like terms. Here I'm going to have 2x equals to 5. Solve for the value of x. This over 2, this over 2, x equals to 5 all over 2. Now let's deal with the second part. X is equals to -1. Okay, so the solution to that question is x, which is the number, equals to 2 whole number 1 over 2 or -1. You understand? That is the solution to, that is the number that we are asked to determine. You understand? That is the number that we are asked to determine. So if you got this, you are correct. Okay, so that will be all for this class. If you want to learn more about word problem leading to quadratic equation, you can check the playlist on this channel or check the description of this video. See you in the next class. Before you go, don't forget to like and share the video, okay? And if you want to be part of this channel, kindly hit the subscribe button.